What is going on, everybody? Man, Micah's back with another video. Back here to talk about the iPad Pro 12.9 inch M2 chip 2022 model. Yes, I've been enjoying this thing here, and I've been rocking this Magic keyboard case. Be on the lookout for the review of this. Probably will drop shortly or before this video. How has this iPad Pro been? Well, I can tell you what, it took me a little bit of adjusting to get used to, because I was definitely used to the Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra, a 14.6 inch size tablet, and shrinking down to a 12.9 inch. It definitely took some time getting used to. Doesn't mean I didn't like the experience, but it took me some time getting used to the smaller form size or form factor. And outside of that, I've been really enjoying my experience with this. The reason being is because Apple has done a much better job at reforming the software, iPad OS, to give us a slightly different experience than the iPhone. So upon taking this out the case here, let me go ahead, and that's one of the things I love, how easy it is to remove it from the keyboard case. This iPad has been a joy to use, and it has shown how easy it is to and nimble it is to still use despite being 12.9 inches. And it's so light. That's one of the things I really appreciate about it. I love the choice of them to, square it out a little bit more, and the speaker placement is great, although when you're trying to hold it in landscape mode, you're trying to be cognizant of where the speakers are, so that way you can hold it steadily, but then also not block the sound from coming out, to enjoy that great sound experience that they built in, in the hardware. And so that's just one of the things I really like about the iPad Pro, is the design factor of it. Of course, I hope that what we're hearing in the neck of the woods of rumors, that the next set of iPads will shrink the bezels. I will be a fan of that. And we may get increased sizes or an additional size, which will be somewhere in that 14 to 15 inch size of the iPad, in which of course I will go get. I spent $2,000 on this thing, 1 terabyte, 16 gigs of RAM, so that way I could utilize it for what I wanted to buy it for, which was much improved workflow experience. And that leads me into software. iPad OS 17 beta has been fun to use on here, and of course if you're watching this after it's got iOS 17, and I'm probably still enjoying it, and that's because Stage Manager got a significant update, being able to reform your app windows to bring more of a laptop-like experience, and using more space in your display settings gives the ability to get even more information in Stage Manager to utilize your workflow as easy as possible. And I've seen different ways you can use Stage Manager. I forgot the guy's name, but he had a great suggestion about essentially kind of using it as a modes, like a work mode, and each window that you have to the side could be apps that you've already set up in some fashion, maybe 4 apps at a time, maybe 2, split screen, maybe a big one and a smaller one. And those can all be different app window layouts that you can switch between, so that way you have a consistent flow of work that you can get done no matter what it is. And to some degree, I've utilized it in that way with certain apps, like if I'm note taking or trying to do research for certain videos, I'll have YouTube or the internet pulled up, and then split screen over next to that is my notes app, and then maybe I might have reminders on top of that, or I'll reposition the notes and reminders app so that way I can do that. And that's one of the things that I really like about Stage Manager, is that it's nimble in that way. And even when you full screen apps in Stage Manager mode, all you got to do is swipe in from the side, and you will be able to see your other app windows that are waiting for you to use. I really like that. And speaking of reminders has an update that really utilizes the iPad space well, and that's being able to see your lists in column view if you set up a list with columns. And I do that with videos to shoot, with video games to buy. I use reminders completely different than how you would probably typically use a reminders app, considering it's called a reminders app. Typically you would use a notes app to probably keep track of things that you want to get done or do. But it shows you how powerful Apple's apps are if you really tap into them and use them interchangeably. Because with the reminders app, you can interject notes into the reminders to call back to the notes and just stay right within that ecosystem and still be able to achieve so much work. So that's one of the things I really appreciate about the iOS experience so far. Having an iPad, figuring out how I want to use it outside of just video editing, and could I really push it to its limits? And to some degree, I have with DaVinci Resolve. Now, granted, it was more so of a temperature thing, but the M2 chip to me still seemed like it handled the workflow of editing videos. And that's one of the things I found very, very reassuring buying this iPad. And I wonder if the M2 chip is more optimized in the iPad form or in the MacBook Air form. Now, maybe if you get the additional kind of upgrades in terms of CPU or unified memory and SSD, maybe you get a little bit more out of the MacBook Air from that perspective, and it's 15 inches. But I feel like the M2 chip is perfect in this iPad Pro, and I've been able to edit videos. I haven't added any motion effects, just simple edits to get used to editing in DaVinci because it is a different beast. Coloring just a smidgen, changing some level just a little bit. I'm still learning how to use those tools, but I was trying to use them and the iPad was handling with no problems. And this is more or less a full-fledged studio professional editor on the iPad. And so I really appreciate the fact that the software that Apple is slowly but cautiously, surely implementing with the iPad, specifically the iPad Pro, to make the best use of this big canvas for workflows and for Mac-less or Mac Pro-less, laptop-less, desktop-less experiences. Because that's where I'm at right now. My workflow is tablet-based, and that's because I don't think I need a laptop. I don't think I need a desktop. And if I can get that kind of work done on here, much to the same note of email use and research use, studying use, I don't really need the laptop. Like, if I needed more power in that way, maybe they'd still bring it to the iPad, but then I would look to get a Mac Studio or potentially a Mac Mini with a better chip in it, like a Pro level M chip, or you know what I mean? Like, I would start looking at that if I needed that bump in power. And maybe that's just because the type of cameras that I use right now, that I don't dive deep into 10-bit 422 footage because my camera doesn't have that capabilities yet. But even then, I've heard people who use 10-bit 422 have no issues on the iPad. And so just from a software productivity experience, I am only going to continue to learn more about it as I continue to use it more. And that leads to a very interesting subject, which is battery life for the iPad. And keep in mind, this is going to be based off me using iPad OS 17 beta, but even throughout the beta, I haven't noticed battery life suffer on here. And because I work, I don't always get to play around with the iPad, which hurts because I would like to just kind of just touch it and look at it and finagle with it. Battery life is amazing on the iPad. I mean, arguably better than the Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra's battery life. Now, when I finally started doing DaVinci Resolve work, my battery crashed. But I was also in DaVinci Resolve resolving several projects over and over again because I did not know what I was doing. But I was in DaVinci Resolve from like 7:30-ish to about 11:45-ish. So you're looking at 4.5 hours of editing 4K footage, overlaying like 2K-ish footage, rendering it like 7 to 10 times. I burnt through 60%, 70% of battery life in 4.5 hours. But that was just that one situation. When I went to render 2 different projects, I lost about 7%. So it shows you right then and there what the capability of the battery life is, so to speak. There's days where I didn't touch it, as I was saying before, and I digressed, and I didn't lose any percentage. I had 100% for 24 hours. And then there's times where I had 100%, or I only lost 3% in 24 hours. And as of right now, I have had this off the charger did I have it on the charger yesterday or the day before? But I'm at 90%. I've played a couple videos off of it. It's had a little bit of heat hit the back of it. I've used it today to some degree. I've only lost 10% in the span of almost 8 hours. So the battery life on the iPad Pro is absolutely amazing. Something that I am very appreciative for. And once I start getting back into doing some more editing on here for you guys, then I'll also get a more glimpse and look into how does it really handle battery life when I edit a project the right way. And of course, probably several projects. And the heat is the one thing that seems like that's the issue. But when it comes to the heat, I also have it attached to the Magic Keyboard, so it can't dissipate from that side as easily. It will have to dissipate via like the speakers or through the front. But I've only ran into that heat issue once, and that was with DaVinci Resolve. So overall, my experience on the iPad Pro has been phenomenal. Sometimes I still wonder, like, hey, like, am I getting everything out of it? But after experiencing what I did with DaVinci Resolve, that lets me know I have a comparable, perfect companion for that kind of work. And I am more or less happy with the money that I spent on the iPad Pro. I spent $200 more on this, and that was just for the iPad, than I did for the Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra, and I bought the keyboard with it. I spent like $1850, and I got the tablet and the keyboard. This, I spent $2,000 alone on the tablet, and then went and found the keyboard for like $300. So I spent $2,300 on this alone, and that does not include the $15 I spent as a result of a $100 gift card from Apple after buying this for the Smart Folio case, something that's lighter and that accessorizes this in a neat way where you just want to take this and kind of go prop it up correctly and you're good. I often leave it attached to the Magic Keyboard because I usually am getting my typing on, or I need the keyboard for editing because that's how DaVinci works. That's where sometimes I wonder, which I probably still will use LumaFusion, but again, what a companion device for the iPad Pro in itself, the Magic Keyboard, but we're getting to that in another video. Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think about the iPad and the iPad Pro. Do you use either one? Are you debating getting one? Are you waiting for the M3 iPad Pro? Let me know down in the comment section below. But again, as always, if you guys haven't already, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, notification bell so it's my videos. So let me sit back, relax, see what's cracking with your man Micah, signing out to the next video. Wait, boy.